Welcome to another edition of Crime News with Mark Solomon. It's Friday, September 10, and today's episode we're going to be talking about three main things. The Vallow Daybell case has been postponed. We'll talk about that first. We're going to talk a little bit about some attorneys, defense attorneys that need to be talked about at least a little. And lastly, we're going to be talking about the Murdaugh murders, and that's going to be complicated. So stay with us. But before we get to that, don't forget to click like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. You want to see more. It really helps us if you click subscribe with that little bell next to it to be notified of future videos. So let's go ahead and get to the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell case. There was a competency review hearing set for September 8th. That was Wednesday, just 2 days ago. And the judge found that the competency evaluation was sufficient this time as opposed to the one that he received last week, which was not adequate enough for him to make a decision. Remember, all of the links of all of the websites you're going to see on this video and every other video is going to be in the description below. And this is the judge's findings that based on the progress reports the court has received and the information from the Department of Health and Welfare, the court finds and determines that pursuant to Idaho Code, Ms. Vallow is still not competent to proceed. He has given an additional 180 days to the state for restoration. In 6 months, we will be back and we'll see whether or not she's going to be committed, whether the case against her is going to be dismissed and she will spend the rest of her life in civil commitment, or if the state is going to be able to restore her and she will be on trial as Chad Daybell, her husband, is going to be on trial. But let's talk about that, because Daybell, who was originally set to be going to trial on November 8th, both the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney agreed that they will be continuing that case as well. They have not set a date yet, but they basically pointed to the, here I'm reading, they pointed to the multitude of motions filed in the case, saying he thought it would be impractical to proceed in just 2 months. And, you know, anytime you've got a case where there's just so much trial publicity, and so many issues to be litigated, trying to do that in such a short amount of time, it's really difficult. So the fact that they're continuing his case doesn't surprise me whatsoever. So the next thing they're going to be doing is doing more litigation. But again, trial date for that has not yet been set. Let's go ahead and shift topics and talk a little bit about John Pierce, the attorney for 17 of the Capitol riot defendants. He disappeared for weeks. Wasn't showing up to court dates. Nobody wasn't answering his phone, and everybody wondered where the heck he was. And he recently has reappeared. And, you know, this is news from a day or two ago. And the interesting thing about that is, I mean, I think it's interesting that he's defending 17 of them. Granted, they appear to have consistent defenses, but anytime an attorney represents two people charged with essentially the same thing at the same time, there's always a conflict. Excuse me, there's always a chance for a conflict of interest, that one party might want to blame another. And if they both have the same attorney, that attorney cannot advise that. He can say that, you know, he has a conflict, but if he doesn't, that's on him. He told NPR that he had a chaotic 12-day hospitalization. He didn't say what he was being hospitalized for. Some of his co-workers had said that was a COVID-19 hospitalization. I don't know if they had any confirmation on that. Here's the NPR report that his associate at different points said he was hospitalized with COVID-19 and was on a ventilator. Others said that he was in an accident and he had dehydration and exhaustion. The phone at his legal office appeared to be disconnected, and calls to his cell phone went straight to voicemail. And the Justice Department, those are the prosecutors, mind you, said that the confusion had effectively brought all of these cases to a halt. Then on September 7, he reappeared. He said he'd been released from a hospital in Los Angeles after a 12-day stay, but didn't say what for. He said he was not going to be elaborating on why. This is where it gets interesting. Pierce's career, in his own words, had recently imploded, leaving him with a large amount of debt. Court records said that the divorce and substance abuse and mental health problems for several years. His ex-wife obtained 2 domestic violence restraining orders against him, and he disclosed in court that he received a letter of inquiry from the California State Bar, a step that they take if they're considering disciplinary charges against an attorney. And, you know, clearly he was not going to comment on that. Pierce's critics question whether he's taking on so many cases to raise his own profile and argue his story underscores the potential pitfalls of mixing political rhetoric, culture wars, and fundraising on the internet with the unforgiving realities of criminal defense in court. I couldn't have said it better than that. That's just beautiful. And, you know, he talks about his winning strategy, his political background, which apparently did not work. And this article, again, links in the description, talks about the implosion. And, you know, he talks about the texts between him and his wife, which are pretty gosh darn offensive and concerning. And the interesting thing that he is... Yeah, here we go. Pierce did tell the NPR that his substance abuse problems were worsening in 2020. And here he is defending these 17 or 18 people in federal court. The part that I think is the most concerning is this. He is a civil litigator who has never tried a criminal case before. And it makes me wonder why anybody would hire a person in a federal criminal case to defend them when they have never done that before. Now, I've been following the R. Kelly trial a little bit, and we're in week 4 of the R. Kelly trial in New York, if you haven't been following that one. And the defense attorney there, I was listening to a report on the radio yesterday on the way to court, and one of the things that they were saying is that the defense attorney never done a case in federal court either. And, you know, I don't know anything about her experience as a criminal defense attorney in general, but they said never been in federal court. And both the judge and the U.S. attorney had been objecting and doing a lot of bench conferences, like half a dozen times just in her opening. And that was because she just wasn't familiar with the rules and procedure of federal court. Now, here we've got another criminal defense attorney representing 17 or 18 criminal defendants in federal court who has never tried a criminal case before. And I just don't understand why somebody would hire a criminal defense attorney without doing a little checking to make sure that they are qualified, ready, and have done the type of case that you're hiring them to do. Now, granted, everybody's got a first case. Everybody's got a first type of case they've ever done before, and a lot of cases are similar. And I'm not saying that a civil litigator can't do criminal cases. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that how can a person take on 17 cases where they've never done one of them in trial ever? And I just find that interesting and also concerning. The next thing I wanted to tackle in this video is the Murdaugh cases. Now, this is another set of complicated cases, and I'm going to give you some links to some timelines because, you know, we're going to go over them today, but these are complicated, and what you want to do is start at the very beginning. Now, remember, if you don't know, Mr. Murdaugh is an attorney. Mr. Murdaugh was recently making headlines because he was being indicted for the manslaughter charge in regards to the operation of a boat, which caused somebody's death. And it goes way back, though. Here we go. The news of the deaths of Paul Murdaugh, who is 22, and Maggie Murdaugh, 52, led to national headlines. But it starts back in July of 2015 when Stephen Smith was found dead in Hampton County. No arrest made. February 24, Mallory Beach goes missing after a boat crash near Parris Island. Love hearing that word, Parris Island. 911 call placed on the scene of the crime at Archer's Creek. March 3, 2019, a boater discovers Mallory's body in a marsh near the Broad River Landing in Beaufort County. March 2019, Beach family files a wrongful death suit against a Beaufort County bar, convenience store, and 2 homeowners, all of whom served Beach and her underage friends alcohol the night of the crash. And the lawsuit was later amended to only name Richard Alex Murdaugh and Richard Buster Murdaugh Jr., Parker's convenience store. So they are being sued. April 18, Paul Murdaugh is indicted on charges of boating, which is what I was talking about. Boating under the influence, causing the death, and 2 counts of boating under the influence. May 6, 2019, he pleads not guilty. The court ordered mediation in June of 2021 in both of the wrongful death suits, which appears to make the case bound for trial. June 7, 2021, Alex Murdaugh discovers the bodies of his son, Paul, and wife Maggie at their 1,700-acre hunting lodge in Colleton County, and a 911 call is placed. He says he needs the police. His wife and child have been shot badly. The sheriff's office responds, and law enforcement is contacted and respond. June 8, authorities confirm the identities of the deceased, referring to the incident as a double homicide, but they say there is no threat to the public, and yet no arrest is made. They did not say double homicide and a suicide, so that's interesting. June 11, 2021, they have their graveside service. June 14, the coroner confirms that both of them died through multiple gunshot wounds, and that was between 9 and 9:30 p.m. A few days later, they did a 24-hour dedicated hotline. June 17, the Alex Murdaugh brothers, Randy and John, appear on an exclusive interview, and they plead to the public to come forward for any information. We've seen this type of thing over and over. June 21, they release a handful of heavily redacted documents shedding light on what the deputies discovered based on the information gathered. They say they're looking into the death, and they do not elaborate how. June 25, they formally announce a $100,000 reward. July 7, attorneys representing the survivor of the boat crash filed a petition to shift the blame from Paul Murdaugh to their client, Connor Cook. And then on July 14, the court orders that the heavily redacted documents be released more fully. And then, shockingly, September 4, just 6 days ago, Alex Murdaugh, Paul Murdaugh's father, was shot in the head while changing a tire in Hampton County. They're investigating. He's conscious, speaking, but wow. And then, 2 days later, Alex Murdaugh releases a statement that says he's resigning from his law firm and entering rehab. Later that day, he said the law firm releases a statement that he was stealing money from the firm and that they're going to do their best to recover. But then the South Carolina Supreme Court suspends Alex Murdaugh's law license effective immediately. And, you know, anytime you have an attorney who is a fiduciary, has a relationship to their clients, if a lawyer is accused of theft, that's probably one of the worst things that can happen to an attorney, because they have to be able to be trusted. Lying or stealing are two of the worst things that can damage an attorney's character and ability to be an attorney. So that does not surprise me that the South Carolina Supreme Court decided to do that. Then, yesterday, this news organization received an incident report from the Hampton County Sheriff's Office in regards to the Alex Murdaugh shooting. Now, the shocking thing about this new report is, as the WJCL article here says in their video, that Alex had no visible injuries, that they're looking for an attempted murder with an unknown suspect. No alcohol or drug use was suspected. But remember, that's not what their attorney said just a day or two ago. Curious. The conflicting information is that while originally Murdaugh's attorney, Jim Griffin, told the Charleston Post and Courier 2 days ago that his client sustained entry and exit wounds from the bullet that struck him and he was lucky to be alive, the newly released report says that he had no visible injuries. Okay, so that's something that's going to need some explanation, and Whether that attorney was getting misinformation or whether he was spreading misinformation or whether he was creating it is something that people are probably going to be looking into. So we are going to be following this one, but those are the 3 stories we wanted to talk about today. That is what we have. If you have any thoughts, questions, or comments about any of these issues, please put them in the comments below. And until then, thank you for watching.